Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing my first full garden tour that will include this little patio garden that you're seeing behind me and the new pot garden that I got from our neighbors just down the block. It's a much bigger space and we have prepared that just right before this, so I'm going to update on how that's looking as well on this video. If you're new here, I'm Mariana. I am a chef and I'm gardening in Queens, New York City. We are on zone 7B and I have a small raised bed in here, a couple vertical planters, and as I say, a pot garden we're going to be able to garden at a much bigger scale. In this garden tour, I'm going to be talking about the varieties that I'm growing, how everything's been going for the spring. I have started some things very early. The brassicas were started in January and I transplanted them here in February, March. I want to show you guys the progress on how they're doing. I also have a few overwintered plants that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to do my best to go through every variety that I'm growing so you can follow with the process. So it's a little bit noisy here because I am in Queens, New York City, so there's a bit of street noise. I'm going to try to do my best to remove that on the editing, but sometimes it's a little hard, so just be patient. But today might be a little bit of a longer one, so grab a cup of coffee and let's hang out. I'm going to start here to this side, but also I want to take you guys inside my house to see my seedlings and my grow light setup. I always get questions about that, so stay tuned because you're gonna see some of that too. But for now, let's take a look at how our front yard garden is doing. Just going to give you a little overview real quick before I go in detail, so you just know and have an idea of the kind of space that I am growing here. And then I'm going to turn back and start explaining in detail everything that you see right now. Over here on this hanging basket, I have a couple herbs, and I'm trying to grow some daikon radish. It's deep enough that I think that would be good, so it's a good quick early spring crop. So I'm trying to see how they're going to go ahead and nasturtium in here. That, as you can see, didn't make it through the cold. We had a couple cold nights. And then we have here just a little hanging basket with herbs. This wine box here, wooden wine box, I repurposed, and I'm growing some lettuce. There's an asparagus growing over there as well. On the next box I have about 4 asparagus crowds in there, and that one that's out we took from upstate, from the garden upstate, and was given to us by our neighbors. Was about 2 years old now. It's finally emerged from the soil. You can see it's still really skinny, so it's a small one. And the other 3 that are in here, we bought the crowns, also 2 years old, so they haven't showed up yet, so hopefully they will. And right below here I have some raspberry. This was also from upstate. We started gardening upstate last year, and this is a wild raspberry that we found there. I grabbed a little cutting and I bought it here in the winter, so it didn't had any leaves or anything, but now it's growing very nicely. Looks really healthy. It's putting lots of new growth out, and we're excited to see if we'll have some berries. I'm also growing there in a repurposed old wine box in here, and I'm going to see if it's going to be big enough and if I'm going to have to repot it or not. Over here in the back I have onions. Those are shallots, a couple different kinds of shallots. I planted them last year too. I have this in here so I can cover them, but they're outgrowing it when it gets really cold. But there are a couple varieties in there. There's more shallots back there and more shallots here. They all have been here. I think I planted in November at the same time that I planted this garlic. They are all in small pots because last year I did not have the raised beds and I just wanted to experiment and see if they will survive, and I had those in here, which has been working fine, and we'll see in the future how is it gonna go. Back below there I have in my little plastic greenhouse most of my peppers. They stayed here overnight. They're nice and warm, I think, inside the glass. As you can see here, inside the glass, inside the plastic, is at now 95. Peppers like it really hot, so they look like they're okay. I do look like I got some aphids in some of them once I put them out, so I'm trying to work with that. I'm trying to spray with soap and water. but for some reason it doesn't seem to be working very well. They just keep coming back. So I'm going to try applying neem oil very soon, probably by next week, on everything as a preventative manner. So neem oil is approved for organic gardening. It's not harmful, and then also not harmful to the bees, and you should apply it either early in the morning or in the afternoon, so you make sure late in the afternoon when the pollinators are not at work or are as active, so you make sure that it is not going to harm them in any way. There are not so many pests as of right now. We're in mid-April, and I want to do that as a preventative because last year I did have quite a few pests in here, so I'm gonna try to start in a good space already and see how that's gonna go, if that's going to help me or make a difference. So we're going back here later today. I'm going to take these peppers out just after this video. They need to get some sun. It's a little bit shady in there. I want to make sure they're growing nice and strong. After I repotted them, if you watched the repotting video, they are doing much better. I was actually afraid that they were going to get stunted. But as you can see, even the ones that I left, I didn't have a chance to repot, like those shishitos, they look like they just sprang back. So I'm hopefully with the warm weather, they'll still do well. Those are my overwintered peppers. They're doing okay. That one over there, as I showed, is a little bit better than others. More overwintered peppers in here. There's also some marigolds growing here on the side, and some marjoram right there in the back, and a little zinnia. So everything in small scale. And here from the green stalks, which I really love because they help me saving a lot of space growing vertically. The food here is growing so nice. Look at this lettuce. This is a solar flare lettuce from Baker Creek Seeds. I think it's really pretty. They're doing really well. I have them here on the green stalk, and I also have them right over there on the raised beds. I have a couple of them growing there. It's really hot now, so the plants are going to start to wilt, so I'm going to try to do this a little fast. But here I have nasturtium. I think it's called Bloody Mary nasturtium or orchid cream. I'll put it in the description down below what kind of nasturtiums. This is really pretty. I have some blue dazzling kale, my favorite, growing there. That's a variety of kale that I have growing the most in my garden. This is Swiss chard. I have some radishes and some mustard growing there. I planted this green stalk not that long ago, so I also have a video. If you're curious, I showed you how to put all together, and that'll be kind of cool to see how little those guys were and now how big they look compared. And see, the scale here is huge. It's getting a little wet just because it's the time of the day. It's been cold and now it's a little hot, so they kind of droop a little bit around this time, and then they pick back up a little later. Sorry. And these things are great because you can rotate them. Just going to rotate here, and you can see this is a beautiful Vulcan chard. I love the leaves of that one. Some spinach growing very nicely there. Those radishes were planted from seed, and those carrots were also planted from seed. You can only do about 3 carrots per pocket, so I'm going to have to thin those, or I'm going to replant them around the garden. The radishes, they're planted from seed also not that long ago. Most have always sprouted. And then below here there are some beet seeds. They're taking a little longer than everybody else, I'm assuming because of the lack of sun, since everybody else is growing, but they'll come up. And beets like shade, they don't mind some shade, so it'll be okay in the future. And then look at this bok choy. It's huge. It's on the first tier on the top. And look at this. I have 2 growing over here, and they are growing beautifully, so that's really nice to see. And then on this other guy here, this is the first green stalk. I had that before, so the plants on this are a bit bigger than the plants on there. Just rotated, so this is the back side that I had all seeds in here, and this side that you saw first I had my starts. Here too I have purple sprouting broccoli that overwintered. Actually, I don't remember if those little ones are planted just really early. This guy here actually overwintered. Look how big it is, but they kind of started sprouting at the same time. As soon as the weather got a little warm, it sprouted. But it's almost time to harvest them. Look how pretty they look. Same in here, the seeds from Baker Creek again. I have just curly kale. There's a pea that I put it in here just to see if it's going to sprout. Earlier in the season it was super cold, and it did. And over here on this side I have this beautiful bolted bok choy. If you've never seen a bok choy flower, That's how it looks like. They are edible. That is really good. They're very nice to do garnishes, or you can ferment them. Okay, right here on the ground I have a few tomatoes that I decided to repot just to see how they would do outside of the greenhouse. I have some tomatoes in the greenhouse as I showed, and most of them are in my house under the grow lights right now. I have a potato that I put in here. I'm going to make a video about it soon, but I wanted to have one first just so you can see how it looks like. And I have a tiny little purple sprout in here from purple potato that we planted. Oh, there's another one here. We didn't even see that before. There you go. So those are going to be potatoes. I will explain why these bags. Oh, another one here too. They all sprouted. Yeah, put 3 potatoes in here, so that's a great sign. I'm going to explain why I have this bag folded this way and everything in a video very soon, so it's coming up. Stay tuned. And then I have some chives in here that I have to replant somewhere. Those carrots are also overwintered. I just left them in this spot. The varieties here, I have some dragon carrots and some yellow, I believe, and some Denver carrots. So it'll be 3 colors: yellow, orange, and purple. And they are, on the winter I thought they were dead. There's a very early video that I showed too, and you see I was actually surprised when I saw that they were okay below there. So I decided to leave them in here to see how they're gonna grow. When they get a little bit bigger, I'm going to harvest them together with this beet that has also overwintered as an experiment. It kind of looked pretty wimpy, but then when the spring came, it sent all this beautiful lush new growth here. It's a Chioga, or I never say that right, a candy striped beet. So it's a pink beet with the nice big beautiful white circles inside. Hopefully I can harvest that soon to show too and make something with it. Over here it's mostly radishes, and on the same pot I'm going to sow bush beans right after I harvest this. There's some extra garlic in there. There's not doing as well as this garlic here. This one's much bigger. And I think it's because that one I kept really close to the greenhouse. This one I just left it out and got a lot of snow on, so I don't know, we'll see. This is a little shady area of my garden. That's where my sort of compost is in there. I'll explain to that in a different video too. I have a little trap here for slugs because we just had rain for a couple days, so and then they eat my seedlings there. I'm just gonna see if that works. And over here all along the edge of this side, of the shady side, I sowed spinach from seed. You can see that almost all of them have sprouted all along there. I have some pansies, violas, also edible flowers, delicious. I love to use that for cooking. And my cilantro here in the shade, that's doing really good. Every time I try to grow cilantro in the sun, it just died. And now I just kept here in this very shady spot of my garden, and it's doing really, really good. So look at this. Beautiful, right? So it's a good tip. Try to grow cilantro in a shady spot if it gets hot where you are. And then I scattered radishes all over the raised bed. I'm also going to do a video about that too, why I decided to do this and the benefits of it. It's going to be coming up probably after this one. And these are the kales, those little blue dazzling kale, the same one I sold on the green stalk. That's my favorite kale so far. I got these seeds from Baker Creeks as well. I love the color that they get, blue and purple. This is a sunflower that I grew here. People said that it couldn't grow and it was too cold, but it did. So it was just an experiment. It's in a pot because sunflowers don't do well with the transplanted. So it's going to be little. It won't get so big because it doesn't have a lot of space. But I'm very excited just to see that it survived and is now setting a bud in there. So that's pretty cool. And then over there on that side, I have a Brussels sprout that overwintered. I don't know what's going on with that guy. I thought it was going to send a flower stalk because it grew really tall. But the Brussels sprouts along the edges kind of look okay. They're little, but they're okay. In the back there, I have all peas. They're out there a little bit in the shade, but they're growing well as well. And those are magnolia tendril purple peas. So they have a purple pod and green peas. And I put a tomato in there. I also have a Napa cabbage, but I ate it. We took it out because the slugs are eating everything. So we just decided to just take it out and eat. So I put a tomato in there as an experiment. I know it's early for us, but we have so many tomato seedlings that I said, you know what, it's worth the experiment. So it's been there for a week and it's doing really good. So everything going well. We're probably going to have tomatoes earlier and sooner. More peas in the back. And here we have broccoli, little purple mustard that I got that seed from free. It's purple Japanese mustard from Baker Creek and I love it. It's really good. I love the taste. A little bitter as all mustards, but the color is just stunning. And I have another purple sprouting broccoli growing here. This was also overwintered. It was really small, and I was not sure if it was going to survive. It's kind of good, looking good now. It's becoming nice green and bush. So let's see what's going to happen. I'm leaving this plant in here until it gets a little warmer, and then I'm going to switch this to warm weather crops. That is beautiful lettuce. That's again cauliflower lettuce, the same that's growing in the green stalk. You see how cool it is that actually looks a little different than the ones in the green stalk. The color, it's a bit darker. The leaves are a bit longer. So I love this to see that just growing different styles can make it a plant slightly different. They both look delicious, but I think this maybe gets more sun in here, so that's why they're so red. And I have another blue dazzling kale in here. As I say, it's the one variety I have the most. I grew this carrot here just as an experiment in this little tub, and it's looking pretty good. Let me show you how. See, it's actually getting pretty big. So probably going to harvest soon. When I harvest that broccoli, I'll probably together with the carrot. This purple kale here, it's also overwintered. I'm letting it go to flower, which means sending this center stalk here, and then having some flower buds. Once the flowers form, I'm gonna get seeds after, and that's why I'm doing this. I want to get some seeds. I don't have any more seeds for this purple kale, so I'm purposely letting it bolt or go to flower so I can collect seeds from it. It's looking really pretty. They sent all this new growth during the spring so much, and there's little flower buds everywhere. And back here in the raised bed, I have a random leek in there. It's just an experiment too. See if it'll grow. This lettuce not doing very good. So here's the thing. I'm gonna kind of go over this real quick before I'm gonna do a video about it, but I just wanna explain to you why this raised bed look as it does right now. So the reason why this raised bed looks so densely planted like this is because I really wanted to maximize my yield here. I obviously have very little space, and there's a book that I mentioned in my previous video too, which I'm going to link down below as well, about home scale permaculture, and I was reading about densely planting things in your raised bed without to maximize your space, but do not sacrifice your yield. So that's what I'm trying to make here with this raised bed. I'm gonna get a little farther so I can explain a bit better. As you can see, I have kind of spaced out, let's say nicely, some brassicas. You see how that one from this one and this one, they're all broccoli. Like, I mean, this is a broccoli, that's a broccoli and a cauliflower, and they're spaced out kind of far because they need a lot of space to grow. In between that space, I have a lettuce, and I have a lot of little radish seedlings. I did that because the radish and the lettuce grow really fast, and they will come up to maturity before these other bigger plants send these really big leaves out. So that way I can have a quick crop before without sacrificing so much space, even though I'm growing brassicas that require a lot of space to grow well. And along the back there, I sowed peas all along to help fixing the soil too. Peas, the nitrogen fixers, the legumes. So for me, putting them in there would just help to give a little boost. Brassicas and peas are very good for companion planting because brassicas need a lot of nitrogen. And then in the edges here, I sowed spinach and a few flowers. But what's going to happen is this little, I think I have some bok choy in there in between with the radishes too, because they're going to be quick crops. And they will, I'm okay with harvesting them smaller. I'm okay with a baby bok choy or just a smaller radish that I can use for the leaves. So if I feel that the brassicas are not growing as fast and I need to take them out, I will. But also, I didn't want to I put some mulch in there, but I wanted to have some sort of green living mulch. Maybe I planted too late to do that. I could have planted a little earlier, but I learned next time I'm going to try to do it earlier so they are a bit bigger by the time these plants are to this size too. These brassicas are just really growing really fast. I started them in January from seed indoors. This is a kohlrabi. This is so big, and they're just going a sprint right now, growing really big, really fast. This broccoli is all from seed, is all new too, was all sown also in January. and they're already this big here. They got much bigger once I transplanted them outside. This is a kohlrabi that is actually forming a little bulb underneath. It's kind of gonna get a little nice and round below there very soon, hopefully. So, and I have a beer trap in there for slugs. As you can see, the seedlings, they see this little damage. That's probably slug or those roly-polies. They like the smaller seedling tender leaves. So I could, because I planted so many, I could have leave some in there as a, you know, to make them do the thinning for me. But I do want to eat those. I decided to put a beer trap. I've never used that before. It's someone, people recommended to me a few times. So I just dug this up to soil level and added some beer in there. I haven't seen anything there yet, so I'm not sure if it's gonna work out or not, but I will sure keep everyone posted. If I grab something, I'm gonna post on Instagram and you guys can see if it worked or not. But I'm trying to just I'm not gonna use anything for pest control, the neem oil, or things that are approved for organic gardening, because it's very important to me that we don't have that stuff in the food that we're eating. And on this side here, see how much smaller my plants are. In the morning, see that big tree? I have a big tree right here in the neighbor's garden. That the sun comes that way and then shades this side of the garden. So you can see that I planted the seedlings all at the same time as them from seed, as those big ones here. And on that side, they're growing slower. And you see how on that side, everyone is much bigger. This is a great example for you to see how placing your crops in the right spot makes a big difference. Even the crops they say they're to be shade tolerant, which those brassicas are, you can see that if you give them more sun, they will still grow much faster than if they don't. So when you see the videos online that say many crops that you can grow in the shade, just be aware that they'll just grow a little bit slower. But that was mostly it for my front yard garden. Pretty humble. I have a lot of things in pots still. I want to try to make it prettier when the time comes. But those green stalks are really handy. Let me turn this one again, so just you can see the nice side with the bigger things in it. That was the transplant. Look at this. I love this so much. Before I had them, I had all this stuff in here, so it was kind of hard for me to even get to the raised beds. I didn't have raised beds either, but to get to that side. So I'm very excited about them. They'll make my place look much neater. Once I harvest that broccoli, it won't be there anymore. And on this carrot pot, I'm just going to put flowers and probably put it in a corner somewhere. And this bush beans, I can have it growing along. So I'm going to try along with the season to try to make this look really nice, because it's sort of makes us feel so good to be in the garden. So I wanted that to be part of the design that we choose to. They're all edible things, but they also would bring us some comfort in looking at the garden. And once the peas grow all along there with that mesh, so I put this plastic chicken wire, we are going to hopefully have some more privacy, and even the videos are going to be better, so you're not going to see all these cars behind there. So hopefully they will do well. And after the peas, we'll see if you're going to follow with cucumbers or something that'll grow in a vine, so we can also have that sort of privacy that we're also looking for with this front yard garden. And one last thing, I always get questions about these hoops. I bought them very cheap on Amazon, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, they are attachable. There's a kind in there that they come separate, and you attach to the size you want. I did not want to spend a lot of money with the nice ones, so I chose these as an alternative for me. They have been working. I can add the link to the description down below. Just know that they were not the super expensive sturdy ones. For my needs, they do well, but they do see how that look, you know, they are not the most resilient, but I will fix that later. But they're great for me. And it was cold still. I had this garden up here when it was still risk to snow, and I could always cover everything here once it got below freezing to make sure that none of these plants will get damaged by the frost. And that worked well for me, even though those hoops are not the most sturdy, but that's what I could do with the time, and I do not regret it. Once they break, I might get new ones, but for now I'm okay with using them. Here are most of my tomatoes. As you can see, I have a lot of tomatoes. There's many varieties in here. I should probably also make a video just talking about the varieties that I'm growing, so it's easy to refer to once I do this garden tours. And then I have some just newly born okra. Look how pretty those guys look. I think they were sprouted yesterday. Look at this, guys. They are, this one is a pink Okinawan okra that I'm very curious about. I have a jing orange okra there. Look at these leaves. And also here I have just a regular jambalaya green okra. I love okra. I'm from Brazil and I'm very excited to harvest them. They're very prolific, something that I really like, and I grew up eating them, so I love want to hopefully have a good harvest this year. And then behind there I have a lot of tomatillos. Here I have a couple Patio baby eggplants that are very good for small spaces. And to have some more jalapenos. I went outside. These peppers are getting aphids. I gotta figure that out, how I'm gonna solve that problem. There is some other, I think these are just bok choys that I sold heavily in there. There's another eggplant just right there in the back. I have some nasturtiums in the back too, some calendula. Over here, it's, oh, those are my cucurbits. Those are mostly cucumbers and squash and the winter squash. I even have a couple melons in there. So I have a kajari melon and I have a kahu watermelon. It's supposed to be a Japanese mini watermelon back there. I have a honeydew squash that's bred here upstate New York and I absolutely love it. Used to work a lot in the restaurants when I was back at the Fine Dine Kitchens. And then we have a Jasper delicata squash. Delicata is also one of my favorites as well. But they have this hybrid variety that's round, so I'm never tasted it. I'm very curious to see if it will grow and bear fruit, so I can taste that. And here are just cucumbers. This silver slicer cucumbers is, never tried it too, but I heard it's really good. It has a white skin and it's thin and tender. So we're gonna try that this summer too. This is just a regular market cucumber, Japanese cucumber, my favorite. That's why I have 6 of them growing. Those are just 3 and 3. And over here just is a nasturtium that came out to life today. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Just a sprout. Hopefully we'll do well. It's looking pretty skimpy. A little sprout of the nasturtium. So hopefully we'll do well. Have some marigolds in here that saved those seeds from upstate. I have probably put a video on how to do that too later. I filmed it, just haven't posted. And then I have another patio baby eggplant that's looking much bigger here. And a few late tomatoes that I basically planted because I was a little scared I planted my tomatoes too soon and they wouldn't do well. But the other ones are beautiful. As you can see here, look at these babies. They're so nice. And they'll be just right in time to go outside. They'll be big enough and I'll be able to plant them deep. I'm gonna make a video on that too, explain why I do that, what's the best way that I find to plant tomatoes. And this is going to be a second round, so I'll probably sell the seedlings or give to my neighbors. They're densely planted. I have a video on how to separate tomato seedlings as well. Can also link that down below. And there's more flowers. I have this beautiful purple basil growing here too, next to the tomatoes. They'll probably live together outside in the garden too. And I'll give you my raised bed plan after. In a couple months, the raised beds should be looking much different than they are now. Let's take a look on how things are looking here on this side of the garden. I explained in the previous video that I linked below before, and it'll be down below here too. It belongs to our neighbor, and he said that we could use this space to garden too. First he said we could do whatever we wanted with it. Now he also wants to be part of it, which I think is really cool, so he asked us to save some space for him. Okay, here is the grapevine that is still not showing. I can't see any new growth or anything in it, but I never grew grapes before, so I don't know when that's going to start happening. That's going to be grapes here. Here on this side, you had all those pretty yellow flowers, if you remember from last video. Now they all died, so it's time to new things to come up. There's also something cool that I didn't notice before. There's a rose bush in here. I can't wait to see what kind of roses are there. Same in here. There's another rose in here. Pretty. Can't wait to see. This is a big one. And it is growing really good. So I'm excited to see the roses that will flourish there. And here it is from this side. It's already half shaded. We get only a little bit of sun in the morning, then gets shaded by all these buildings. And then we get a little bit of sun again in the afternoon. When the sun goes all the way around, it comes back here. I planted some lettuce right before it started raining. I rained the last 2 days, as I said. So here we planted this. This is the same little solid flare that I have on my garden, and some mustard in there too. This is a romaine. Still very little, but looks like it's doing really good. So I'm very excited to see full form whole lettuce. Because I have more space here, we decided we planted them a little farther apart. The reason why they're like this in mounds is because this soil is actually really heavy. It's clay. And I got some advice from some people around, and also in the book that I read, I'm reading that clay is very fine, and it's hard to drain. So if you do that, it's easy for the water. So the water will help with the drainage. Here on this side, there's some wild thyme that's growing so nice. This is a great ground cover. I wish we had more, because it will be really good to act as a living mulch in this garden. So hopefully we keep growing. But it's great that this is in here and it smells heavenly. I can't wait to see how they're gonna look like in the summer, how big they actually are gonna get. And then here I have some of that blue kale that I actually transplanted in here from my garden, and it's growing nicely. It's have some new growth in here. Let's see if it will make it or not. Here is the peach tree. Look how pretty it's blooming. There's some blossoms in there. It's a small one, which is great. And here is the tomatoes that I experimented growing here. They're doing nice. I put some basil in here too. Might have been too early for that, but hey, I had so much in there and they're looking not that good. So let's see if they'll make it or not. If not, I can just give more. I planted a lot from seed. And then I have some of the tomatoes in there. I tried to put one of each variety that I'm growing. If I recall correctly, the one back there is a Costoluzo Genovese. It's a nice, that looks like an accordion tomato, I guess. There's Start Alois, which is a yellow and purple tomato. Would be that either, I think it's that one actually. And then this one is an Atomic Crepe, I think. This is some sort of cherry. I have a Cherokee purple back there, and another one that actually I can't remember. See, that's the thing about tagging. I should tag everything. I was thinking I'm gonna remember, but I don't. And here are, you can tell, as you can see, we are going to have a bit of a challenge keeping the weeds down. See how much weeds are growing here? So much. And but on the good side, I can see that some peas have sprouted. Let me get a little closer here. This, where is it in the camera? Over here is the pea sprouts. Remember the peas that I planted? And another one, there's a little beak in there as a pea sprout. Well, there's so many weeds in here. This is how, oh, those are easy to see. It's a pea. That's this other one here is a pea. They look like with just little beaks in here. They won't come and look like the ones in my front yard. But then another pea here. And these guys, no idea they are weeds, but they're everywhere. Over here are the things that I planted on the other video. Some kales in here doing good. And this chard, sweet chard, is doing really good. It's growing really nice. And then the leaves are getting nice and dark. I love it. I think it's a light pink one. Came on the package from this as rainbow chard. And remember the daikon I also planted from seed? You can tell the seedlings are big. These big butterfly looking ones are 2 hearts. Because it looks same as radish or brassicas, but they're really big because they're daikon radish. So I can tell those are the ones that I planted, and full of weeds around too. There's kale in there. They're not growing very good, but it's okay because I think I took too long to replant them. These were all planted at the same time as the ones you saw on my green stalk, and those are significantly bigger than this. So I'm not sure if they're stunted. There's a broccoli that's looking nice. That one is growing well. The cauliflower, on the other hand, you can see there's a couple of them here that's not doing very great. That one is doing very nice. So one did good. Maybe that one, those ones had transplant shock. I'm not really sure. This one is doing really good too, even though they're small. That kale is growing much faster than the cauliflower. They're about the same size. It's a cauliflower and cauliflower. They are slow growers, so let's see how they're gonna do. More radish. Remember I said I was gonna throw a bunch of radish all over the place because they help with the clay, to break down the clay, special daikon. So those are all the ones, the seeds I sold here the other day. And here I had also planted a few things that birds and animals, this side really they come. You see how much digging it has in here. Not much survived, other than some beets that are very little, but so far they're making it. Back here There's some peas that I transplanted a little bit bigger. Besides how those ones on that side will look like after. But also, some of them are not that great, and then some of them grew. I hope they get a little big so they can catch to that back there. Not that many, only 4, so it won't be a big crop, but it's worth the experiment. Here is going to be a side where I'm going to put flowers. I have already put a zinnia in here that looks like a zinnia. Hopefully it is. It's doing okay. And there's a few other flowers, wild flowers I've put in here. I don't remember, but also I put some sunflowers and they're gone. And whoever ate them or took them left the tag in here. I'm gonna reuse this, take this and plant another black sunflower. So anyways, this is the amount for the compost. This is how it's looking like right now. So with that said, I'm going to be checking out from this video. I hope you enjoyed this first full garden tour. So for the next garden tours, I'm also always going to be starting right in my house, because in front of my house with my front yard, it's the garden that I'm more attentive to because it's just right there, and I go there all the time to work. That one's the one I'm always going to be starting with, and then we're gonna walk over. Hopefully that can change, but we're gonna walk over here and see how things are going in this plot garden, this little 2 strips of soil in the middle of New York City. So I'm very excited to see how things are going, and we will make sure to keep posting, and hopefully I can do these garden tours every week so you can see the difference. And I'm very excited for the next one, and I will see you next time.